Hey everyone, life's kind of kicking our ass right now, so we are taking a break for this week, and we're working hard on our next episode. We're really excited about it. It's just that we both kind of needed some personal time for a little bit before we get back to it. So thank you for downloading, listening to our show, and sit back and enjoy a classic from our archives when we talked about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Oh, this was back when we had a Pablo. So, get ready to hear his sweet, sweet voice again. Anyway, thank you again, and we will catch you next episode. Bye. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cinema Rogues Episode 3, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I don't know why I said that so stilted. It just kind of came out that way, so we're going to roll with it. As always so far, we're on Episode 3, joined by Andrew Derry.
I burped your entire intro.
You're such a liar.
I burped through the entire
thing. You may know Andrew from
burp.
such famous podcasts as Board Game Barbarian.
Bard Barbadens.
It's all about bards.
It is.
About
it's
the
weird.
Bardamans.
Bard board games.
Bard game Barbarians.
And there is my brother and co-host Pablo. Welcome to our third show. It is pretty exciting. This time it was Pablo's pick, and he said almost immediately Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
You know, I thought about it for a
he
real
gave us
long
another
time.
option.
It was a Godzilla. I think he gave us Godzilla.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I thought about it for a real long time beforehand, and I wanted to give
5
you
minutes.
guys a movie that wasn't too challenging, but also that had a lot of really deep stuff to talk about. So I didn't pick my more heavy, depressing art films that I was going to go for. We'll save those for another time.
Godzilla?
Godzilla,
Depressing art film.
Godzilla 2.
The French Godzilla film.
Yes.
Oui.
Godzilla
Bunch of French
2.
cuts and Godzilla smoking a cigarette.
And there's a train coming into the foreground from the background the entire time.
Yep.
Well, as I mentioned, we got Andrew here. We got Pablo. And we have none of the regular Retro Warriors cast. It is the opposites.
The side character show.
B Team.
Yay, B Team. But if you feel like you need more Andrew, please do check out Board Game Barbarians. You can go to boardgamebarbarians.com, check out his stuff. It's pretty interesting. I enjoy listening to it.
I'm sure you can also slide
you
a few. I'm sure you can also slide a few dick pics into his DMs if you really want to.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Oh man,
That's illegal in the state I'm in.
Andrew is looking forward to that so much. If you need more of me, you can check out my YouTube channel. It's Sidetail Studios. I am working on coming into the 21st century and getting a website. I have the domain name. I just have not built it yet. So I'm working on that, coming soon. If you need more Pablo, just request more edits into the main show, and you will hear more of Pablo's work.
You can also check
I don't
out
know how
my.
you're going to do that.
You can also check out my Fiverr, where my services are for hire. I'll do everything from editing podcasts to mixing down music to sending dick pics. Honestly, if you really want one.
Well, I mean, I guess
No,
if
I'll
it is
pass.
solicited, then it's fine.
Yeah, well, I mean,
You can't
people
do
would be
any
paying.
unsolicited.
People would be paying
Free
me.
dick pic with every podcast
No,
edit.
that's not free. I'm not. No, we're talking like $35 premium at least.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
That's pretty cheap. Pretty cheap
For
dick pic.
your dick pics?
Yeah, 35 at least. I mean, I'll trim up, I'll fluff up, I'll get a nice like light going.
This show has gone in a weird direction.
It really has, man. Can you tell us anything else about your week, though?
I've been
you taking dick pics.
watching One Piece a lot lately, and playing Animal Crossing and being out of toilet paper, trying to figure out what the hell's going on during this trying time in our lives. The important thing about my situation is that I work swing shift. So as soon as I get off of work, not in general, just off work, all the shops are closed. Walmart's closed, Albertson's closed. They're all closed. So I get to
You probably just need
to,
to wake up a little bit earlier.
I ran to Winco right before the show, and they were closing down at 10 o'clock tonight. They're usually open 24 hours.
Yeah, the stores near me are open. I think I read they're 8 to 8 now.
Yeah.
So if you wake up at 8, maybe you can go get some groceries.
Yeah,
8
I've
is
been
like
adjusting to life at home, with the kids not being in school and working from home. So that's been new. I mean, it's basically like an extended summer vacation. So figuring out how that works. I've been playing Doom Eternal.
until the
That was
fall.
my choice. What's that?
Said extended until the fall.
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like we're not going to have like organized school again until at least the beginning of the next school year.
Yep.
So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, unlike you, Pablo, I did not choose Animal Crossing as my game this week. It was Doom Eternal. I've been enjoying the crap out of that. I haven't liked Doom games previously, but then I watched a video that one of our Discord people suggested, and watching this guy be infectious and just be like, no, you just got to go in and play and have fun. And oh my God, demons explode. It's amazing. And so I've been into that for the past couple of days.
nice.
But
I watched Jacksepticeye play the whole thing, so that was my experience with Doom Eternal.
nice.
It was good.
Deceptive guy?
Jacksepticeye, like Uranus,
That's
like a butthole. Septic eye.
Now I want a new channel that you create called Deceptive Guy. And it's just every time you play a Twitch game, you put the title as a game, but that's not the real game you're playing. That's the only joke is that you're deceptively playing a different game.
Yeah, I'm sure it would
what's
throw,
posted.
That's a good joke.
It wouldn't go
people
well. Yeah, it would not go well at all.
I give that.
Yeah.
I give that.
I hate. You know what? I already get like 0 viewers half the time, so I can't go a lot worse.
You hear that, everybody?
Okay.
You need to watch my brother's channel. Give him some viewers.
Hey, man, thanks.
0
Appreciate
viewers.
Andrew, you got anything interesting, or should we go to news?
I mean, I just got Animal Crossing. Been playing that.
Hell
a little bit
yeah!
last night, a little bit today. Justin and I tried out the Netflix party thing.
Did it work?
So
Actually,
we
I was
may
interested in that.
It did work. We may start doing commentaries again because of how well it worked.
You know,
and
Netflix
sync
parties
up
might be good
together.
for us too.
If the movie is on the Netflix, then yes.
Yeah.
It's a Google Chrome extension, right?
Correct, yeah. So I do have to watch it on my computer,
Chrome.
or you apparently can also stream it to like a Chromecast or something like that. But it worked out really well. We watched the last like 40 minutes of Into the Spider-Verse,
Nice.
in which I stopped writing notes because Justin was just talking the whole time. And complaining, and then
Justin talk
Wait,
for
I
a
know.
long time.
And then we watched the Humanity Bureau, which is a really terrible Nicolas Cage movie.
Oh
Like,
no!
I'm talking like B tier movie,
Oh.
like really bad CG and special effects, and like, oh man, it was so bad. If you want to watch a terrible movie, go watch the Humanity Bureau starring Nicolas
Oh,
Cage.
That reminds me. I watched Midway, the Roland Emmerich World War II movie that just came out.
I don't know why that reminded you of.
Because it also had terrible computer graphics and
okay.
was a bad movie.
I thought
Well,
you
I'm
were gonna.
talking like really bad. Okay.
I thought you were talking.
I was confused as to whether or not the like the whatever you call it, where they put the background on the green screen or whatnot, whether that video editing was purposely terrible as an homage to like 60s war movies, or if it was just they didn't have enough money to do the production correctly.
Probably the money part. I'm talking like the Humanity Bureau was basically like After Effects gunshot muzzle flash. Like that's how like yeah. And if they definitely don't know why Nicolas Cage is in that movie with his His old turkey neck.
I don't know why Nicolas
actually,
Cage was
he's
in
in
this
this
movie.
Because he's awesome.
It was a
Because
weird
people like
choice.
Nicolas Cage.
I mean, he did a
Yeah,
good
I
job,
think
but it
he's
was a
great-
strange
You know what?
choice.
We'll talk about that in a minute. We'll talk about that in a minute. Before we get there, we got news. We have so much news. We have so much news about like movies and movie delays because of the ongoing COVID-19 virus that I just summed it up and said, you know what? Fuck it. Just every movie is being delayed at this point.
Basically, yeah.
It is making more news when TV shows and movies are going ahead with productions than it is ones that are getting shut down at this point.
Yeah. I didn't know. I thought you had put it in here. Did you take it out, I guess?
I did. I took a few of them out because I had like 6 in there.
I didn't even know that the Disney Plus Marvel shows are being delayed.
No.
Oh, yeah. Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they shut down one filming location. I don't know if they
Lame.
rescheduled their filming to accommodate or what, because that decision was made before like Italy went on lockdown a couple weeks ago.
I mean, it won't look as good, but they could always just CG it. They do have Disney money, so.
Right, they could just use the Mandalorian set.
Yeah.
As long as Miss Marvel comes out on time, I'll be satisfied.
Yeah. But because of the coronavirus, there have been all the movie theaters in the U.S. have been shut down at this point almost.
Yep.
I think movie chains have taken that upon themselves, along with cities have been locked down and stuff. But now the movie theaters or the movie distribution companies are coming up with alternatives. And one of the side effects is that movies are coming out for streaming earlier than they had originally intended.
Oh, no.
no.
The thing they said they couldn't do.
Right.
They couldn't figure out a way to release a digital movie in time to digital.
Which makes movie producers stupider than us, because we can put content on the internet really easily.
Yeah, they're stupid, rich producers.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Frozen 2's already come out on Disney Plus. I think Onward is scheduled to come out digitally this week. It just came out in theaters last week.
It's coming to Disney Plus, I know, on April 4th, I think, 3rd or 4th.
Yeah,
They're going to just put it onto the Disney Plus service. So if you don't want to pay for it, you don't have to if you have Disney Plus.
It's not free, though. You're technically paying for a subscription.
Unless you haven't gotten the free subscription yet. Free trial to watch Onward. But, yeah, I will say I forgot to put that in the notes. I did get an email from, I have the Alamo Drafthouse Pass.
Mm-hmm.
And I did get an email where they were like, hey, we've automatically suspended your pass until further notice. And once we open up again, because they've closed all their doors, they will reactivate it at no further charge, and I'll get the remainder of my pass that month until...
See, this is why I like Alamo Drafthouse. They're real cool.
I mean, they did some not cool things, like they laid off half of their staff without pay.
That was so they
sucks,
could.
But
that
also,
was so they could file for unemployment as soon as possible. Apparently.
Well, and they also didn't pay them their saved PTO.
Ah, yes.
But when you're a non-corporated company, they're still technically a small business, even though they have multiple chains.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be corporated.
I got a similar email from AMC for their subs program.
I got that too. Yeah.
Yeah, so they've canceled mine and said, we'll automatically. They're going to reevaluate it and then automatically spin it up.
So we'll see. We'll see how things go here in 6 to 8 months, which is I think the newest projection for things not being closed like this.
Right, and I think personally, I feel like it's going to permanently change the landscape of movie releases. But I guess that'll be seen, because I mean, if movies can charge their $20 rental or whatever it is, and they still make millions of dollars, I don't see any reason to go back into theaters as a primary distribution source.
I don't think they'll not do it. They just may do them both, and then we'll see what happens to the theater landscape.
Right. I guess I should have said exclusive theater releases.
But at the same time, if I still have my $20 like theater pass that I'm paying a month, why would I pay $20? I also will never pay $20 for a rental
Sure.
Who would do that?
unless I have to. I don't know.
I mean, I mean,
People-
that's basically what you're doing when you go to a theater. You pay
Yeah.
two people pay $10 to see a movie in a theater.
I mean, if it's a movie that both me and my wife want to see, then I would probably pay the. I don't want to say I'd never pay $20. I would never pay $20 for me by myself to watch a movie with no one else.
Yeah, I would pay it just to watch a movie like in my in my theater room or whatever.
Oh, fancy guy with his
Theater.
Well, I don't have a theater room anymore. Now it's a regular living room with two giant ass speakers. But
Oh, okay.
when
But
I
no
did have
TV,
one-
just the speakers. You can listen to the movie real nice.
yeah, but if it had a comfortable seating, then I think that would be an option. But and I think the only other thing we thought was of note in the past 2 weeks that wasn't coronavirus related. Sonic the Hedgehog surpasses Detective Pikachu as highest grossing video game movie in the U.S.
Take that, Uwe Boll.
Wait, didn't I say
Eat
that last time during the or had it not
Might have.
happened yet?
It hadn't happened until I think it happened last week.
I see.
Yeah,
So
I think
you
we were predicting that it
preemptively
was going to happen.
So
I do want to say this about coronavirus. This is now the time for you to listen to podcasts more because now you have time,
yeah,
but you're not doing other stuff.
and go out.
Yeah,
and
you know what?
I was gonna say order Chinese takeout and buy Coronas because those businesses are hurting for some reason.
Yeah. Fight
Yeah,
stereotypes.
Yes.
fight the
Ah.
power.
So into our topic, we didn't really talk about this at housekeeping, and I didn't mean to, but we are going to go and have a completely spoiler full episode. This is a movie that's been out for a year, or longer than a year, really,
Yeah.
a year and a half almost at this point. So if you haven't seen it, hit pause, go watch it on Netflix, come back.
Yep.
I
I think we also. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, well, we decided that any movie that has been out for at least a year, we will probably do spoiler-free episodes, but we will give you a heads up at the beginning of the shows, most likely, that's going to be the format. Depending on how this theater thing works out and how things go, we're going to figure out what works best per episode for the show. But for episodes like this, it's definitely gonna work better for us to be spoilery the entire time.
Plus, you'll know it's a spoiler alert because Pablo will put the spoiler thing on the episode, I assume.
Yes, I'm doing it right now.
Right now.
In your head.
No. I edited it in the future when I said right now.
He
Are we
put it.
playing like Bill and Ted rules?
Yeah, so the listeners are hearing it as I'm speaking right now. In fact, it's playing so loudly right now specifically you can't understand what I'm saying.
Great. All right. Now that is over and done with, welcome to the spoiler part of the episode. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, released December 14th, 2018. Directed by three directors, Bob Persichetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman. Written by Phil Lord and Rodney Rothman. An excellent, excellent movie.
177 animators worked on this film.
Jesus.
You have a note in here, Pablo, about the animation style, and I think this would be a really great time to talk about it. From my understanding, they animated all the spiders at a different frame rate than the background characters. Is that
Sort
right?
of. So all of
You mean
first
all
of
the
all,
spider people?
all the spider totems is what they're officially known as. Thank you. I was just saying. So
Oh yeah, what's that called? It's the web of something, right?
the web of life.
Yeah,
It's
that's it.
just
Thanks.
called the web of life. Normally with animation, with computer animation, especially like Pixar and Dream, what is it called?
DreamWorks.
Edgy, yeah, I was gonna say edgy Pixar, DreamWorks. They like to animate what is called animating on ones, which is essentially for every frame in 24 frames per second, they have a different animation cell. This film, for the most part, was animated in twos. And it's funny because Sony's trying to put a patent on something that Disney did years and years ago. But essentially, what they did was they have a lot of the backgrounds and stuff animated in ones, like typical computer animation. But a lot of the characters are, and especially Miles, throughout the whole film, except for at the end, are animated in twos, which makes them seem a little bit more. Essentially, they're running on 12 frames per second instead of the standard 24. But the rest of the film's going at 24, so you can kind of see it more, I suppose. And the word that the producers used was it gives the film a more crunchy, sharp feel. That's from them specifically. But really what it does is it kind of makes the animation stand out a little more. It makes the backgrounds pop a little more, and it makes the like those special spider poses that Spider-Man's real famous for, with the low angles and the bendy legs, and especially with Bendis's art.
Is that why whenever the trailer first came out, it looked super jumpy?
Yeah, so especially for people who are sensitive to frame rates, this film can be a little bit hard to watch. I know that every time I sit down to watch it, and I've watched it a few times, it takes me a few minutes to not want to look away, even though I understand why they did it, and it makes it actually look good after you get used to it. People who are frame rate sensitive, like myself, might have a hard time, especially at the beginning. But they did things like that, and what's really cool is whenever Miles Morales is learning things, I'm thinking specifically of the scene where they're running away from Dr. Octavia for the first time. And did anyone catch the little bagel thing when he throws the bagel at the guy and it hits him on the head and it says bagel, like a sound effect? And it makes a little doink noise. No. It's one of my favorite parts of the film. Anyway, during that scene in particular, you'll notice that Peter is animated with full 24 frames per second, and Miles is animated with 12, which makes Peter's movements seem way more fluid and way more practiced, and it makes Miles seem like a newbie, which was really cool. It's kind of like storytelling through animation style, which was something that's never really been done before. And I think is one of the biggest reasons it won Best Animated Picture for 2018.
Also, I do want to say that you may have not noticed it, but your brain did.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
For sure.
That's definitely one of those things.
I think it's one of the main things that lends to that the animation feeling very comic booky, right?
One of the coolest things that they did that I didn't notice until I started breaking the film down is that they didn't use any motion blur like how real films have and how a lot of Pixar and DreamWorks films have. They didn't use any motion blur. Instead, they used animation smears, which if you've ever seen funny pictures of Homer Simpson, like really ridiculous and morphed, like those memes, you know what I'm talking about? Those are from animation smears. And like, for example, in a few parts of the film, if you pause it, you'll see maybe Peter Parker's arm is 3 times as long as it should be, or maybe he has 3 arms instead of 1 when he's trying to wave his arm around, that kind of thing, or maybe he has 2 faces and his neck is stretched, that kind of stuff. And so they did that instead of motion blur with this film, which really lent which made the film lean even more into comic book art style, especially with all the half toning and hatching that they did for coloring the film, which I thought was really cool. And one of the things that I didn't notice until way later was that they used sort of this particle effect that was made famous by this one guy named Jack Kirby.
This one guy.
That one guy.
Yeah, this one guy. His name's Jack Kirby. Anyway, they used these particle effects in the film, which I didn't notice until it was pointed out to me, and it really adds a whole lot in terms of making it sort of more whimsical and comic book-y. I think
I like how each of the
they're called.
I was gonna say. I'm sorry. I like how each of the spider totems also have different animation based on their background and the universes that they came from.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was reading
and-
about that too. So
Well,
like
yeah, I noticed it most specifically in Spider-Ham,
Spider-Ham
played by John Mulaney.
for sure.
John Mulaney.
Mulaney, excuse me.
John Mulaney. They didn't do too much.
My
They didn't-
coasters.
Your coaster that nobody else can see.
Yeah,
Nice.
but you guys can.
Yeah,
It's a cool
Thanks.
coaster.
It's a Spider-Man coaster.
it's a Spider-Man coaster. What were
They
you saying, Pablo? Sorry.
they didn't do too much with Spider-Man Noir except make him monochrome and make his shading real dramatic. But with Spider-Ham and Penny Parker in particular, they really studied. At least I assume they did because it looks like they did. They really studied hard on like old 70s, 60s animation for Spider-Ham, like Looney Tunes style animation for Spider-Ham, and they kind of emulated that when they were animating him. And for Penny Parker, they definitely took a lot of inspiration from actual anime, because her movements are more sharp and angly and like anime, just way more dramatic in terms of movement goes.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of the different characters, the cast is insane. I guess other than Miles Morales, right? Like Shamik Moore, I had not seen in anything previously that I can think of. But he stars in the movie as Miles Morales, does a fantastic job.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I don't think I've ever heard
Jake
of him
Johnson
either.
from The New Girl as Peter Parker. And did you send me the thing earlier, Andrew, about he right now is recording like free messages as Peter Parker?
I didn't send that, but I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
For
if you
sick
guys,
children?
For sick children, he is volunteering to record some messages in these times of trouble. Chris Pine is in the movie. I didn't know this until I looked up the cast.
Oh yeah, he plays,
He is the original universe, the Miles Morales universe, Peter Parker, blonde Peter Parker.
which is apparently the ultimate universe. Because
Is it?
yeah, because in in the scene where they are showing, specifically in the scene where Fisk is asking about the machine and how it works, the big universe splitting machine that they have in this film, listeners, just so you know that's what this film is about this machine that Fisk creates and has Dr. Octopus build for him, so that he can go into different universes and I think see his family who passed away or something like that. But anyway,
trying to bring them back
or
bring a different universe family into his universe so he can have them back.
which is relatable and understandable and extremely selfish.
He's just doing it a shitty way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this for a sec, because that is the central plot point in the movie, and why we have multiple universes, right? Is Wilson Fisk, Kingpin. There you go. Forgot his comic name for some reason.
They're
Kingpin
both there.
goes in. He is beating up Spider-Man. His wife and kids see him, run out in fear, get hit by a bus, and now he's reaching across multiple universes to get a replacement for them.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
Which makes
Like Pablo said, makes sense. You can sympathize a little bit, I guess, but at the same time, I feel like personally it feels terrible because he's ripping that version of them away from somebody else.
yeah,
Right.
from another alternate Fisk, I suppose.
And as we know from the movie, we don't even know if them being in his universe would be sustainable.
Yes,
Right.
because they really couldn't
Because you
exist.
immediately start running into the
And-
fragging problem.
I think
What I was
Dr.
going to say about the Chris Pine blonde Spider-Man is he also could be an allusion to Ben Reilly from the 90s comics, where Spider-Man is cloned and
Right.
his clone Ben Reilly takes over
blonde.
for Spider-Man. And he dyes his hair blonde, yeah.
Yes. But no, so what I was going to say before we move on was that in the scene where they're discussing the machine, I think him and Dr. Octavia, they show a graph of of all 5 universes, and they're all numbered, and the one that they're from is labeled 1610. What is it? 6110. Whatever the Ultimate Universe is that's how I know that they're in the Ultimate Universe, is because it specifically says they're in that universe in the movie. And the Peter Parker, the 38-year-old one who has gut, he's from 616, which is the main Marvel universe. And then of course Penny Parker's from her own universe. Spider-Man Noir's from his own.
Kimiko Glenn.
And Peter Porker is also from his own. Like all of their universes show up in that one little graph, and it was a kind of a cool thing for people who read Spider-Verse and care about that kind of stuff. It was nice, but also at the same time, it kind of hurt because it doesn't feel like this movie is in the Ultimate Universe, except for the fact that Green Goblin was huge and bulky, which he is in the Ultimate Universe. So is Venom, by the way. Mm-hmm. And everything is named something weird. Like how...
like what?
Oh, like for a lot of the cameos, like the Google cameo, they were called whatever Google's old name was. Coca-Cola was called something like Cola Sweet or something like that. I don't remember all of them. There's a ton of examples of that though, and that's something that happens in the Ultimate Universe.
Did not know because I was just looking up. Earth 616 is where Deadpool kills Deadpool takes place.
Mm-hmm. 616. That's the main Marvel universe. That's where everybody's at, and I don't think Miles Morales exists in 616. Or maybe...
Yes, because that's what I looked up.
Maybe he does. I don't remember. Well, the original... So far, there has been 1, 2, 3 Mileses. And it's hard to tell exactly where they're from, except for the first Miles, who is definitely in the Ultimate Universe. And then the second and third Miles in the comic might be the same Miles, but it's hard to tell. And then there's the video game Miles, whose dad dies instead of his mom, who dies in the Ultimate Universe. And this current Miles that's going on right now has both of his parents alive.
So, just as a background before we continue, it does look like the Ultimate Universe has ended and Miles Morales was merged into 616.
Yeah, but I think the thing was, he moved to 616 or they started him over. I don't remember. It's been a while.
Yeah, they honestly probably started him over.
Yeah.
I would think during one of the mini reboots.
But I don't know for sure, so don't hold me against that.
Fine.
All right. Good.
It's been a little while since I've read it.
Yep.
But
yeah, I haven't read it in a long time, but I don't know.
So anyway, we're talking about Fisk and his relatableness.
Right. Well, his unrelatableness. He accidentally pulls in a bunch of I guess we're calling them spider totems.
Weird. That's what they're called.
And honestly, but they never reference that in the movie. The only way you're gonna know that is if you have comic background.
I don't know if we should call them spider totems for this show purposes. We should just call them spider people.
Spider people.
I like
spider people.
Or
then.
spiders. Either way.
Spiders.
Yeah.
Or
So we
spiders.
can't say Spider Men because you got Gwen Stacy, which is played by
Haley Steinfeld. In
I really liked her.
What else she's in, man.
I really liked Gwen Stacy's character design in this particular movie. Her hairstyle and her little.
Yeah, I mean, it was very heavily
gap.
based on her most recent comic run.
I guess I could see that. It's not
after the revival.
It's not super similar. You're talking about Ghost Spider.
Yes.
It's a little similar. I just like it a lot more than that particular rendition because she has the little gap tooth and the cool hairstyle, and her character design tells a lot of story about her, right? Because you can sort of tell, and this might just be me sort of writing my own headcanon, but because she has the weird teeth, you can tell why she went a little bit on the, what do you call it? Not punk, but alternative style, as opposed to, normal high school girl. She's more has, septum piercings and a great hairstyle and stuff like that.
She's a little edgy.
Edgy. There we go. She's a little more edgy. And I feel like the fact that she has some messed up features kind of lends into how that developed over time. Anyway, maybe that's just me reading too much into it, but that's how it felt for me anyway.
Man, that's perfectly valid. If that's how it felt for you, buddy. So in this movie, I guess there's what's his face, Kingpin as the main bad guy, but he's got a henchman named Prowler, that you come to find out is Miles's Uncle Aaron, and Prowler and Uncle Aaron are played by Mahershala Ali, who was in the Luke Cage show as the bad guy for the first half of the season.
Prowler is a really cool character. I liked him a lot.
I was super excited for Prowler because when I was a kid, and I guess the comics that I read, he was more of a like anti-hero that would team up with Spider-Man from time to time.
Right.
So it was weird seeing him as like a straight up villain for the most part.
Prowler.
Yeah, that kind of subverted some expectations. I was hoping for a redemption arc, like especially when he pulled back. Like him getting shot was a surprise, genuinely.
Yeah. He
a sad surprise.
It's funny because Prowler dies in every Miles storyline, but also comes back in every Miles storyline. So I'm expecting to see Prowler somehow in the sequel, the one that's coming out here.
As his uncle or as somebody else who dons the
outfit? As the Prowler, as his uncle, the same character. Because he always comes back. For example, in the most what's the word? Egregious? Is that the right word?
I don't know. We have to have context for what you're about to talk about.
The best example of how jarring it can be was that one time, after the Prowler had already come back once, he got killed again, but this time there was no reason for him coming back. He just said, "Yeah, I don't know. I just woke up in the middle of the forest," and then came back. That was the comic book write-in for why he's alive again. It was just a throwaway line about him waking up somewhere randomly. And everybody was surprised that he was alive in all of this. And it just made no sense. So I'm expecting Prowler to come back in the second film, for sure.
Yeah, I guess they didn't need another origin story for him. He was like, F it, he's back. Yeah, deal with it.
Exactly. That's exactly how it was. Because it was kind of a surprise in the comic, right? Him. I think Prowler. It's in this most recent one that it happened. The current run of Miles. He wasn't in the first 13 issues, and we know he's dead. But then all of a sudden, he just came and kind of Deus Ex Machina saved Miles from whatever trouble he was in at that particular moment. And I don't know, I just thought it was funny. Made me laugh at the time. But talking about the Prowler brings up another interesting point, which is that at the beginning of this film, it says that it's approved by the Comic Books Code Authority, which it's a whole bunch of rules and guidelines back in the day that it's kind of like the what's it called, movie ratings and video game ratings, like T through M, and
yeah.
It's kind of like that, except if it's approved by the Comic Book Code Authority, it's E for everyone, essentially. And they have a bunch of guidelines, and one of the biggest guidelines is that none of the criminals can be relatable. And Prowler and Fisk are both relatable in this film. Maybe not to everybody, but certainly I related to Fisk because I've lost a loved one before. Not in death, of course, just a really long relationship that kind of fell apart. So I understood how he felt in that moment. And then the Prowler's just completely relatable in every way, especially in this film. So,
I'm sorry.
what?
I'm looking at your notes right now, and I'm kind of blown away.
Bye.
Are you telling me that Spider-Man 2099 is in this movie?
Yeah, he's in the post-credit scene.
There's a post-credit scene?
You haven't seen the post-credit scene? It's hilarious.
As him being in the movie.
I have not seen this.
Miguel
It's
O'Hara.
great, but his costume doesn't count as him being in the movie.
It's not his costume.
He's not a character in the movie. He's just in the post-credits.
In his post-credit scene, essentially, he's talking to his AI woman, and he tells her to send him to 1960s, and he goes to the 1960s, and the entire segment after that point is animated in 60s Spider-Man style, and it's just that meme where Miguel O'Hara and Spider-Man are pointing at each other, and they're like, "Why are you pointing? Don't you know pointing is rude? You're the one who started pointing." And they go back and forth like that for a little bit. It was a really funny gag. You should definitely watch the post-credit scene if you haven't already. And you guys should definitely watch it.
I obviously, but you did remind me that is one of my favorite things about this movie is how diverse the cast is, and the cast and the settings feel, I suppose, authentic and representative of the growing up in New York experience. Not that I've had a lot of experience growing up in New York. But some of the ambient sounds and surroundings, it seemed very
well, they did a lot to capture the feeling of Brooklyn, and specifically they did a lot to highlight the differences between Brooklyn and Manhattan, because as you know, Spider-Man is from Manhattan, but Miles is from Brooklyn. So they did a lot of real subtle stuff. An example would be they played one of Biggie Smalls' songs about Brooklyn in the movie. Because Biggie is from Brooklyn. He was a Brooklyn rapper. At least I think he was. Don't quote me on this stuff. But they played one of his songs during the film, and they also had a lot of that ambient noise from Brooklyn itself. You can kind of tell it's like a little inner city. You could tell the schools are like P.S. like Hey Arnold. It felt like that.
right.
But anyway,
Biggie Smalls is from Brooklyn.
yes. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
And one of my favorite songs from this film, mentioning Biggie Smalls, was the special song that Postpone My Student Loans did specifically for this movie. The one that Miles is listening to on his headphones at the very beginning of the film.
Sunflower?
I assume that you mean Post Malone.
Yeah. Post Malone short for Postpone My Student Loan. I don't know if you knew that.
Okay.
Oh, man.
But
I did not know that.
hashtag facts.
I don't know that I believe you either. But
Why wouldn't
this sounds like hashtag Pablo facts, which are kind of dubious at best.
maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a good time to get into. I think the soundtrack in this movie is perfect.
It was beautiful.
It's an amazing soundtrack that's done really well, and emotionally enhances the movie significantly.
I totally agree. And not to sound too pretentious, but when films and commercials do a really clever and well done switch from diegetic to non-diegetic, or non-diegetic to diegetic sound, like when they're playing the Post Malone song as a soundtrack and then it cuts to Miles in his room and you hear it through his headphones, I get a huge hard-on for that kind of stuff, especially when it's done well, like it was this time.
All right.
I think you also probably need to explain diegetic and non-diegetic sounds to someone who has not taken any film classes.
Right. The only reason I remember that is because I snuck into my college girlfriend's film class because she's like, we're watching American Graffiti, and I had never seen it, and she's like, well, come watch it. And then she started explaining it there because that was a big focus of, I think American Graffiti, all of the sounds are coming from a source on screen.
Yeah, so for anyone out there, diegetic is sound that is a noise that is on screen.
And then non-diegenic.
Non-diegenic is not on, like
soundtrack
not have
stuff.
a source on screen. So diegetic would be like he's listening to it on his headphones, in that so the character himself can hear the sound and you can hear the sound, so it's diegetic.
And
non-diegetic would be it's a noise or a sound that only you can hear but the character can't.
Exactly. So non-diegenic would be the soundtrack. Diegenic would be in the film, and they usually run some kind of low-pass filter over diegenic sound, so that way it sounds like it's coming from an alternate source, like headphones or from the other room, that kind of thing.
We have now fulfilled our learning portion of the show, where you learn something.
Our film appreciation course.
Hey, let's talk about the villains, though. We kind of mentioned them in passing, but you got Wilson Fisk, Kingpin.
One of my favorite versions of
big
Kingpin.
blocky design.
Mm-hmm. That's the ultimate version. Is Fisk when he has a big body and tiny legs. That's usually how he's designed.
Little head.
In the Ultimate Comics. Yeah, exactly.
And that Goblin makes.
I was going to say that.
Go ahead,
I was going to lead into exactly what you were going to lead into. That being from the Ultimate Universe is why also the Green Goblin is shaped like he is, and all of the villains from that universe kind of have that big bulky feel.
Is my least favorite representation of most of these villains.
Yeah.
See, when I think Ultimate
Universe.
Green Goblin, I think from like Ultimate 1 through 10 Green Goblin from
where
like
he's
2004.
Like a huge demon guy.
No,
that's before.
He's like tiny little. That was before that.
Oh.
When they first rebooted it, the Marvel Ultimate Universe or whatever. But he's got Tombstone with him as his henchman.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'll be honest. There was one point where that bugged me, and that was when I think Aunt May kicked Tombstone, and it was fine.
Oh, she hit him with a bat. And I even paused the movie and turned to my wife and I was like, Tombstone's named Tombstone because he's basically as hard as a tombstone, so Aunt May can actually hit him that hard.
Did you see Tombstone was driving, I don't remember in what scene exactly, but in some of the buses in the film, it's Tombstone driving.
Really?
Yeah, I think there was two instances of that. Is one where I think Miles or somebody gets hit by a bus, and then the other is where someone gets hit by the bus in the big final fight scene. Both times Tombstone is driving the bus. I didn't catch it with my eye. I watched a breakdown afterwards to find that part out. But I thought that was funny.
As we talked about, Wilson Fisk does drive the plot and is the reason for why things are happening. But as we all know, Kingpin is not the smartest tool in the shed. He is strong, he's willful, he is organized and can run his organization, but he does have his mechanical lackeys, and in this case it is Olivia Octavius. My favorite Doc Ock. In this movie, they did not expand on her relationship to Otto, if he exists or not in this universe. From everything that I could see, she is the lone Doc Ock.
Well, there's an ultimate Doc Ock, isn't there?
I'm just talking about what we saw in the movie.
I'm not a huge fan. I used to have when I was growing up, I had a big book of Spider-Man characters. So it was just a paperback trade of Spider-Man's characters, villains, heroes, and anti-heroes that would team up with him. And the Doc Ock that we see in this movie, in that book, it is Otto Octavius's daughter.
Okay.
But that is not mentioned in this movie in any instance.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. So I guess this kind of sort of speaks to where it fits in canon, and I know we keep talking about the comics, and I want to do that a little less, but it does, because for me, I don't think the continuity necessarily carries through from movie universe to comic universe, right?
It never does.
It never does, right? It's as hard as they try, there are going to be variances that people pick on and say, well, it's not exactly like this because this, or whatever. But I think this movie sets up its own sort of universe where it can now pull in from all these other sources and not necessarily need to worry about canon.
My main beef with that, because I agree with you on all your points, but my main beef with that is they specifically mention that it's from 1610. Like how the MCU is its own universe. Like MCU is specifically the MCU universe, right?
Yep.
But in this film, they point out in the film canon that it is 1610. Unless all of the universes have their own movie version of the universe, which is totally what it is. That's my biggest gripe with that particular thing, and why I mentioned the comparisons between the comic and the movie. It's not something I usually do, but in this particular instance, I feel like they were trying to go for it so hard that they actually mention that that's where it's from. And it's kind of important in the context of the film, too, because it's from a bunch of different universes,
Did anybody look up, 'cause that's what I'm trying to do right now, the writers, were either of them related to comic book writing in any way? It looks like they both did 21 and 22 Jump Street. And a couple other things. So they are not comic book writers. So I don't know if you should pull, even though it's mentioned what universe that it's stated in there, I don't know if you should really kind of hold too hard to it, since the people writing the movie weren't necessarily related to the Marvel universe other than writing this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it didn't set off my sort of continuity sensor, because all the origin stories that they put in there were true to the comic version of their origin stories.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of drives the point home a little more, as you mentioned, because they literally show the comic book covers with the artists and writers' names on the comic book covers every time they introduce a new character. Like you have
seen that character.
Exactly. Which it kind of pulls it again into that argument, well, it's not like the comics, blah blah blah, this and that. Anyway,
at the same time, you have Miles learning how to be Spider-Man from reading Amazing Fantasy 15.
Yeah, that was cool. That was really cool. I liked that. Because I have that comic right over there. I got it from Justin's brother.
Nice. I got a reproduction of it from the collector's edition of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie that I went and got signed by Stan Lee at Dallas Comic-Con one year.
Nice. I think there's a true. I think there was
a named at Fan Expo.
I think there was a True Believers edition released for this particular film. I might be making that up, but I seem to recall that happening. True Believers, if anybody doesn't know, is a dollar version of old comics that are like $100 or $200.
So how did we feel about Peter B. Parker?
Peter B. Parker.
Jake Johnson's Peter Parker.
I feel like he was one of the most relatable characters. He was fat. He had a failed business, a failed marriage.
Yeah.
He was sitting in a bathtub eating pizza. Feels like something I'd do. I really liked him.
Yeah, I mean, I put it as like the darkest, not necessarily darkest timeline, but the Spider-Man that gave up kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think
because I feel like
I can't think of a.
He wouldn't have that
equivalent.
huge gut.
Yeah,
he wouldn't have that huge gut if he didn't kind of stop fighting crime as much.
Yeah, exactly. So you can kind of that drives my point from earlier home a little more. There's a lot of storytelling through animation, right? Through character design, there's a lot of storytelling, and that is one of them. Like you can tell, he stopped fighting crime because he has a gut, and he wouldn't have a gut if he still fought crime as much. That kind of thing. And there's a bunch of examples of that in this film.
Well, yeah, I mean that and his entire attitude when he got sucked in.
Mhm.
Or
Which
he started eating more pizza than he fought crime.
Yeah, his pizza to crime
Yeah,
ratio.
His pizza to crime ratio was off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
his pizza to crime fighting ratio. One of the things that bugged me about this film was that there was only one Leopardon reference. So there's that.
What the hell is a leopardon?
Leopardon is the best Spider-Man character. He is from the 1960s Japanese live-action Spider-Man, and he's essentially a Megazord.
Nice.
So he is Leopardon. He turns into a spaceship and I believe a motorcycle, maybe. And he was in the Spider-Verse comics for a little bit, but there's no mention of him because he's from this completely different franchise. And I love when they mention Leopardon because it's one of those deep cut references. And there's only one Leopardon reference in this whole film, which is in Miles Morales' drawing journal. When he was making little doodles, he doodled Leopardon. So that's all I got. Maybe he'll be in the next film.
Sorry, I was laughing a second ago because I was reading through Andrew's notes, and it just says plot holes.
Oh, yeah. Plot holes. Tell us.
I mean, there are plot holes.
Of course they
Where
are.
are we?
Where are we? We're at the bottom of your notes right now.
Oh,
At least that's where I'm at.
we've been going through we've already gone through all the notes?
We've gone through a good chunk of them.
I'm just jumping around.
Oh, is that where you're getting all the villain stuff from my notes?
I was pulling some of it from there.
How
Yeah.
dare you?
I know. I forgot. I was also going to say that I forgot Scorpion was even in the movie.
Oh,
He's
yes.
just- oh my god. So I want to say something.
All right.
All right,
that-
go for it.
I don't like the way aesthetically the ultimate villains look.
Yeah.
I
could see
I
that.
got that sense from reading your notes.
That
Yeah.
Every one of them's like, no, I don't like this version. No, that's
Yeah.
the worst version ever.
I
that
don't like the Scorpion.
that's an extremely common thing. The Ultimate Universe is very divisive, and that is one of the biggest talking points. Is the way that the villains are designed. Because I love
I
them.
also don't like
Andrew doesn't like them.
Green Goblin as like an actual goblin. I like him as just an insane person in a fancy suit.
Mhm. Dude, I liked
As Willem
Spider-Man
Dafoe.
Main Universe number. What was that?
As Willem Dafoe, Green Goblin.
I mean, in
That's
normal Spider-Man villain.
I think Spider-Man 600 they had a Red Goblin, which was
Red Goblin
was
was
a
awesome.
Green Goblin with the red symbiote. I
Yes.
thought that was fantastic, but that's not in this movie.
He was.
I
Green.
did have a great joke that we just skipped over.
Tell it.
What? Go back to it.
Yeah,
It was in the
tell us.
spoiler-free section, which we got rid of, which we nixed, but it's also partly my fault. But it was, we heard you like origin stories, so we put some origin stories in your origin story.
There are so many origin stories in this
There's
movie, and I get it
6
that it's a
origin
meta
stories.
joke, but oh my god.
Yeah.
Hey, that was that's good. So I can have origin stories with my origin stories while I enjoy my origin stories.
Yep,
And at the end, you figure out that the entire thing is an origin story.
it's true. One of the plot holes that, going back to that, I did notice, I didn't go back to verify it because I was very lazy, but Spider-Gwen and Miles don't have the same spider sense moment that he has with basically every other Spider-Man whenever they're in the school after he gets his powers and sticks his hand on her hair.
Oh, they don't. But they
didn't.
she does have one
Well,
eventually.
so-
at a certain point, I thought.
They do have one eventually. No, they have one whenever they're down in the basement when all 6 of them have
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
I thought she had one, but he didn't when they met, and that's why she was being nice to him.
Still a plot. Well, no, because when they first met, he didn't have powers yet.
Right. Well, they met in the hall. I'm sorry.
But
Yeah.
he did not.
Yeah, he
His
did
spider
not.
sense
But
might
then
not
he
have
had that
been.
one later.
No, because it's,
But he
You're
had
right.
it with every single
He
other
had it
Spider-Man
with the first
besides her.
he had it with the very first Peter Parker, which was before that scene, right?
Yes.
No.
Yes, it was.
Was it?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think so. So you're right. That is a little bit of a plot hole. I posted a picture of Leopardon in the chat if you want to take a look at him. He's real cool.
I posted a picture of Venom as Godzilla.
Yeah, that is cool. I like that. That's a cool picture. I'm gonna save that.
Other plot hole that Justin would not shut up about, which is why I stopped writing notes because I was like, please just stop talking about this, was at the very end battle, whenever all the Spider-Men have gone home, or Spider-People, and Miles Morales is fighting Kingpin, they get into a subway car, and they're fighting in a subway car that's just flying through the air, and Justin would not shut up about how Kingpin would not have been able to get into that car without breaking through the wall, but there's no indication that he broke through a wall until after he leaves the subway car.
But he just
there is a portion where he goes, he just sucked it in.
Yeah, he just.
Well, he goes to the edge whenever he sees like his wife and son run away, and like his head barely fits through the door.
Yeah, he just sucked it in. He sucked in his head too, the whole thing.
Oh, sucked in his
just
whole body.
Let's can we talk about Dr. Octavius for a little while?
Yeah, sure.
Gender swap thing, awesome, cool, loved it. I really liked her character design too. Did anybody notice that she was surrounded by octagons the entire movie?
No.
Like her glasses were made of octagons, the lighting in her office was all octagons. She had octagon symbols on her doors, she had octagons on her computer. There were so many octagons.
One of the funnier moments to me when Miles was stuck on the octagon light.
Oh yeah, when he was stuck.
And he's stuck, and they show her talking or whatever, and you just see him in the background of the light going back and forth.
I like that. I like that whole sequence. That was the sequence with the bagel when he gets tapped on the head with that bagel. And
she really reminded me of the scientist princess from She-Ra, the new series.
I haven't watched it yet.
It's good. You should watch it.
It's all right. You should watch it.
After the second season, it gets kind of obnoxious, but it was good up until then. For me, anyway. I'm sure a lot of other people like it. Austin loves it, but he has a little daughter, so
I just made myself very happy.
Why?
So I looked up later because Pablo had a note in here about Donald Glover being basically the Prowler character, the uncle.
He played the Prowler in Homecoming.
So I went right. He didn't play the Prowler in Homecoming. He played Aaron, the uncle, in Homecoming.
Yeah, Aaron Davis, I think his name is.
Aaron Davis. But I looked up to try to verify that. I just looked up online, and there is a Donald Glover cameo in this movie.
Oh yeah. There
which
definitely
I was
is.
very excited about, and I just verified what you guys were talking. I actually just pulled it up on Netflix and scrolled through.
Tell us.
But it's Donald Glover's Community Spider-Man PJ scene from.
Oh yeah, where they're watching Community. Yeah. I caught that too.
Yeah, and in the first scene, whenever you're in Aaron's house, or whenever Miles shows up to Aaron's apartment, on the TV you can see him get up out of bed in his Spider-Man PJs.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
That was cool because he was. Awesome. There was a huge internet I guess uproar. They were trying to get Donald Glover to play
to be
Miles. He's
Miles
way
Morales,
too old to play Miles. Yeah.
I mean, at this point, yeah.
Well, even at Community point, because during Community he's in his early 20s, and Miles is supposed to be like
13. Made an older Miles.
Miles is supposed to be 13 or 14. He's just now turned 16.
To be fair, to be 100% fair, in most Spider-Man movies, Spider-Man is supposed to be 17 to 18 years old and is played by 30-year-olds.
That's true. Did you guys catch all the Sam Raimi movie references in this film?
There was the obvious ones, like the dance
every
one.
Single one, no.
There was a few. The one that's the most obvious was where he stopped the bus, where Miles stopped the bus, or where it was Peter B. Parker stopped the bus with all the spider webs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few other ones.
There were a couple of upside down rain kisses.
There was an upside down rain kiss, and there was a
There was two. One Mary Jane was upside down, and the other Spider-Man was upside down.
There was also, when they were doing the backstory for Peter B. Parker, they showed him doing the finger guns and the dancing while walking down the street.
No, that was Peter Parker from Miles Morales' universe.
That was
the original. That was the intro to the movie.
Oh, okay. Yes. Anyway,
like, hey, I'm the Spider-Man. Blah blah blah.
Yeah. Let's forget about that one time. Is I think what he says.
Okay, sure. You're gonna go off and talk on like a million tangents about the comic book universes and how
no.
Exactly
that's what he says.
And you're gonna get mad at me. You're gonna mad at me for pointing out that you're talking about the wrong one in the movie,
brother. That's what he says. He says, "Let's forget about that one time." In the intro, that's what Peter says. I was just quoting.
Yeah, he was dancing. So for a long time, I thought that maybe the blonde Peter was the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. It was a reference to that, but I like your Ben Parker one better.
Yeah. Yes. I think that the art directors came out and said his blonde hair was directly inspired by Ben Parker. I might be making that up,
Riley?
but I see Ben Riley.
Ben Riley. Yeah,
Ben Riley.
Sorry.
Post credits.
Which funny part about that, about the comics, Ben Riley was actually Peter Parker, because the clone and Ben Riley couldn't figure out which one was the real one, and then Peter Parker later in the comics disintegrated as clones would do in that universe, and Ben Riley was like, I guess I'm the real Peter Parker, but now that Peter Parker's dead, so I'll just stay Ben Riley, and then they rebooted the comics because Marvel.
Because Marvel. I think that about wraps it up. Do you guys have any final thoughts, recommendations, etc.? Pablo, we'll start with you.
There was a subverting expectations was a major running theme through the entire film, which I found was interesting, and that his project at school throughout the film was about subverting expectations, and they do a lot of subversion of expectations through the characters and the writing itself, which I really liked, and I wanted to bring that up. I felt like that was one of the biggest films, and there is a reference to Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs in the film.
No,
where? I think one of the lead animators or something like that worked on Cloudy with a Chance. One of the main writers.
One of the writers did, yeah.
And
what was the reference?
That machine he has, I forget what he calls it, but the machine that he shoots up into the sky and it creates the food clouds, that machine shows up for like a split second in the end fight scene.
Nice.
Which is really cool.
What about you, Andrew? Final thoughts?
I mean, my whole thing was it showed like the underlying theme of choice.
Mm-hmm.
There are multiple characters throughout the entire movie that keep telling Miles that he doesn't have a choice.
Oh, yeah.
And he doesn't have control of his powers until the end of the movie when he decides to
that was
instead of stay seated.
That was something I really wanted to bring up.
What's that?
Throughout the film, he's animated in ones, right? But at the end of the film, there's a few cool things that they do. They start animating him in twos to show his smooth movements, that he's become Spider-Man. He fits into the role, which they show in the film by when he first sees the Peter Parker outfit, Spider-Man outfit, his reflection is shorter than the suit. And then when he comes back later, his reflection and his face match exactly with the face of the suit. Which was cool because that's like signifying, hey, now he fits, right? He believes in himself now, so now he fits, and they show that through the animation. But also, one of the coolest things they did, which gets me so freaking excited, is that when you watch his fight at the end of the film, he uses moves that he learned from the other spiders throughout the entire film, which they don't mention it or say anything, but they pretty much one for one copy the entire 1610 Ultimate Spider fight with the Goblin when he's fighting Fisk at the end of the film. There's like a one for one there. and he uses a bunch of moves that he saw the other spiders using when they were fighting with that group at May's house. He uses some of those moves too. So it shows this really cool thing where it doesn't really explain why Miles is good at fighting, right? Never in the film does it show him exercising or getting fit or anything like that. It just, but at the end of the fight, all of his moves are from the other spiders, and it's just cool because it shows how he learned that stuff. And again, it's storytelling through animation, which was nice. And I don't know, I just really liked that part. I thought that was pretty freaking neat.
All right, well, let me ask you a question then. Of the Spider movies, where does it rank for you?
This one?
Yeah.
Number one for sure. For
Andrew?
sure.
I don't know.
You don't know. Would you
Nope.
put it in the top of your movies, I guess?
I mean,
Spider movies? What?
there's not even been 10 main Spider-Man movies, so
Yeah.
I mean, I put it in top 5.
Okay.
I think I
That's
would
fair.
tie Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2, this one, and Homecoming. Like, all for the top, well, definitely top 3, but given my mood, they can change order.
Okay. I would agree. I think I would put Homecoming 1 and this one 2. And then, I don't know, 3 is a hard fought one for me. I would think probably the first Matthew Garfield. What's his name? Is that his name?
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew
Andrew
Garfield.
Garfield.
You would remember that.
That's right.
I wasn't a huge fan of the Andrew
Uh,
Garfield films.
I love the first one.
Yeah, the first one was pretty great.
But anyway, so for our listeners, obviously we love the movie. If you haven't seen it and we haven't completely spoiled it for you, or if the spoilers just make you want to see it more, you can check it out on Netflix. It's available for purchase, physical and digital. Absolutely, go get it, watch it, rent it, whatever you got to do. See this movie. It's pretty fantastic. I just want to say thank you to everybody for listening. We will be back with another episode of a movie that Andrew is going to pick. He did mention earlier that he was being lazy, so that part of that being lazy was not picking a show
I mean, I
or a
don't say
movie for next time.
not laziness, just indecisive.
Oh, well, there you go. That's
I-
probably better. A better phrase. So, for everybody that's listening, thank you for joining us. We will see you on the next episode of Cinnamon. Oh my gosh, I almost said Cinnamon Rolls.
Might as well
you
just-
guys. We'll see you on the next episode of Cinnamon Rogues. Thank you for. God damn it! I just did it, didn't I?
You said
No,
cinnamon
you did fine.
rolls. I mean, cinema rogues.
Yeah. I said Cinnamon Rogues. Anyway, thank you for joining us on this adventure in Cinema Rogues, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.